Welcome to our Rugby World Cup update, brought to you live from England. Today we are in the birthplace of the game. We're in rugby. The ABSA Red Bus, ABSA member of Barclays, is parked outside of the Gilbert Ellis Museum. Now, I myself am dressed in shades of blue, but we as South Africans are anything but blue following that fabulous victory for South Africa over the USA last night. 64-0, it secured the Springboks top place in Pool B and also a quarter-final place. Then there was also that brilliant personal accolade for one Brian Habana. He goes equal to the tournament's top try scorer. And just to show what a magnificent sportsman he is, he actually tweeted this statement as he now goes level with Jonah Lomu for 15 Rugby World Cup tries. He said, "I'm truly humbled and privileged to have equalled the legend at Jonah Lomu's Rugby World Cup record. I personally don't think I can be equated to a player that changed the game in the most commanding way ever and became rugby's first true global superstar, in my opinion. Jonah's all-round play, try-scoring ability, power, physicality and dominance in the game were truly exceptional. He calls him a hero and a role model and a true professional." He then goes on to thank all of the people that have been involved in his career. And this is how he signs off. He says, "Above all, I am grateful for this talent from God and to be able to play this beautiful game. Onwards and upwards. Sincerest regards, BH." What a true sportsman. And South Africa, this is a man that belongs to each and every single one of us playing the game. And we hope that he's going to go further and actually become the leading Rugby World Cup try scorer, as the Springboks have secured that place in the quarterfinals. What was the reaction following that victory last night? Well, let's check in with Simon Burke, our camp correspondent.
Well, it was a tough couple of weeks for the Springboks, but finally they managed to put a run of form together and make it out of the pool stages. The players now have to refocus their efforts because this is the business end of the tournament.
It was a great day for us out there on the park, but definitely there's things we need to improve on and things we need to work hard on as we're seeing going into the quarters. So we'll be going back to the drawing board and working as hard as we can just to see where we can improve.
This last 3 games we really got better and we showed what South African rugby is all about.
It's been a massive 3 weeks for us. You know, we've had some massive lows and some unbelievable highs. But now, going into a knockout stage, everyone will be on zero. We've been getting some good momentum in the last 3 weeks, but we know there's going to be a lot of hard work going forward if we really want to look at ourselves in the mirror and say we're going to be true contenders to go through to the next stage. So tough task waiting ahead. Wales and Australia, 2 top teams that have been playing unbelievably good rugby over the last while, and 2 teams that we've lost both our last games against. So we know how hard that effort is going to be, but looking forward to the challenge.
The popular consensus among Springbok fans is they'd rather face Wales than Australia in the quarterfinals. The Springboks will find out by this weekend who they're up against. I'm Simon Burke, bringing you the latest from the Springbok camp.
And if you could have a choice, who would you choose, Australia or Wales? Remember, we're always interactive, we're always on social media, so you can tweet me at Vaylen Kirtley or at sport@SABC and give us your views on who you would like to see the Springboks go up against in that quarterfinal. On that note, let's bring you some other news from the Rugby World Cup. We've got news from the New Zealand camp where one of their legends, Nanu, has a special celebration of his own that he'll be enjoying. One of the world's finest centres, Nanu, will win his 100th cap when he runs out against Tonga tomorrow. Nanu, who made his All Blacks debut in 2003, has scored 29 tries for his country and is the most capped All Blacks inside centre and will become the 6th All Blacks player to make 100 tests. Several former players have hit out of the 5-week ban handed to Samoa's Alessandro Tuilagi by World Rugby. The Newcastle wing will miss the start of the Aviva Premiership season for receiving a sanction for striking Japan's Harumichi Tatekawa with his knee. Not something that has been welcomed by former players. Former England captain Lewis Moody tweeted, "I'm appalled. How is running into an opponent an act of foul play? Should we play walking rugby now? Please let's not." And finally, another of the feel-good stories of the World Cup, the progress of Romania's rugby, and they have a must-win clash against Italy coming up. But they've brought the family nature of the game to the Rugby World Cup. In the beginning, we had the marriage proposal, and then they dedicated that wonderful 17-15 win in Pool D against Canada. It was a match that was called the greatest Rugby World Cup comeback ever, and they dedicated it to their scrum coach, who lost his mother just 3 days ago. That concludes our news, and this is where we are at. As you can see on the right hand side, that's actually Rugby School, and beyond that building is the Close, which is the famous ground where William Webb Ellis is said to have broken the rules and run with the ball. And where the ABSA red bus is actually parked is outside of the Webb Ellis Museum. We've got more coming your way. Stay with us.
Makamelo Sekhuntse, one strong woman who said no to hunger. She never allowed circumstances to pull her down. At daybreak, she is up and running in the streets of Johannesburg to make her living. After 12 hours of hard work, she goes back home being able to put food on the table. Join me, Bulemo Lebatsi, on your show about those who take on and conquer life challenges every Saturday at 5:30.
SABC brings to you Rugby World Cup 2015.
Let's do this. To live Rugby World Cup update, and we're bringing it to you from the town of Rugby. They've done some super creative things as they have the status of a host city, despite the fact that they're not actually hosting a Rugby World Cup match, but they are the birthplace of the game. There were 2 Rugby World Cup matches that took place yesterday, amongst them South Africa's great win over the USA Eagles, and then Namibia also in action. It was the slimmest of defeats for our fellow African contenders, but Georgia are smiling as they all but secure qualification for Japan 2019. Now the top 3 nations at the end of this Rugby World Cup, when it comes to the pool, the top 3 nations in their pool will qualify for the next Rugby World Cup. Following that victory, how do they stack up? Well, in Pool B, South Africa have secured that quarterfinal place, and now it's up to who will join them. Will it be Scotland or Japan? Now, Japan need a very big favour from Samoa. Samoa will have to beat Scotland on Saturday, and Japan, after 8 days rest, yes, they are quite a formidable outfit when they're not battling fatigue. They go up against the USA on Sunday, and a bonus point win there would push them up, provided Samoa also help them out. In Pool C, New Zealand have already secured a qualification. There you have Georgia in 3rd place. They'll be smiling about that, and only a massive upset in this tournament, and that's Tonga beating New Zealand, would deny Georgia that 3rd place finish, which also secures them qualification for Japan 2019. Alright, that's our ABSA red bus. ABSA, a member of Barclays, parked outside of the Webb Ellis Museum. We're also just outside of the school, and Rugby School has got at least 2 centuries of history when it comes to the game. It was the place where William Webb Ellis broke the rules and actually ran with the ball. But how does the school these days stand up when it comes to competing in rugby competitions? We found out.
Huge amount of history attached to Rugby School, and it's you know, I almost pinch myself daily that I'm able to work at a place like this and I can coach the first 15. Rugby School, there's 16 sides, 16 rugby sides, which is quite unique for a school that's a co-educational place.
Yeah, just any other boys that are coming through in terms of playing maybe.
There's a boy at the moment is involved with England under-18s, who's away today. There's a boy that's involved with Wales under-16s, has been involved with Wales under-16s. A number of boys are involved with various academies, with Leicester Tigers, Northampton Saints, just to name but a few, and we've had a number of boys that have gone on to be involved and play first-class sport and professional sport. Yeah. We have good years and bad years, like any school. I think it's the luck of the draw, and you've got to have the luck on your side as well. So yeah, I mean we punch way above our weight, and we certainly we have to raise our game because everybody around us wants to beat Rugby School.
Certainly a very, very interesting visit to Rugby School, one of England's most prestigious schools. And as you can see, this is where the ABSA red bus, and as just beyond our satellite, you can see the Webb Ellis Museum. And what's really interesting about that is that they have actually been developing balls there for tens, for years and years and years. It was the very first factory to manufacture rugby balls. That's where William Gilbert set up shop. He passed it down to his son James Gilbert, and when the Springboks used to come on tour, James Gilbert actually used to invite the Springboks into the factory, and they would sit there in the rugby ball making museum drinking cups of tea as they made the rugby balls that South Africa would go on to play with. So it's the most amazing story, and this shop front actually looks out onto the back of Rugby School. Speaking about rugby balls, this year's Rugby World Cup 2015 ball is the most colourful Rugby World Cup ball that they've actually had. I had the opportunity to sit down with the head engineer of Gilbert Balls and find out a little bit more about what goes into developing this ball, because it takes hundreds of testing and then also getting a Rugby World Cup winner in Paul Grayson involved in actually kicking the balls to test them out.
Paul's input is invaluable. We have a mechanical kicking machine which gives us the same kicking perspective, so it kicks the ball in the same way every time. So we can test prototypes that are only slightly different, and we can determine whether that's an improvement in terms of distance or accuracy. But Paul gives a level of information which you don't get from a machine. So that personal level of information to say whether the ball felt good off the boot, or whether it hurt more, or whether it felt better, or those sorts of information you obviously would never get from a machine. So the fact that he's kicked every single ball in development means that we have that level of input, which makes us know that we have an improved product before we take it out to the players. In terms of the look and feel of the ball, it is new. It's the World Cup look and feel, but the actual technological ball behind it is exactly the same as they've been using for a whole season. Balls are governed by World Rugby laws, so it has to be made of 4 panels, has to have any type of covering, so it could be leather. We use a rubber surface which has layers of material inside it. That gives it its strength, but it also allows energy to transfer into it. So we have the valve in seam, which means that there's a weight on the surface of the ball which actually helps the ball to rotate. It's on the seam of the ball, which means that when a player kicks it opposite, he has more ability to get energy into the ball, so he's going to get more distance from the kick than if the valve was in the panel. The valve is really important. It allows us to put air inside the ball, and we make sure that all of the balls for the World Cup are at 9.5 psi, which is the entry level pressure for World Rugby's laws. That means that the ball's always consistent. The training balls are pumped up to the same pressure, so that players are using something that's virtually the same every time they use it.
Well, I've made my way outside of the Absa Red bus, and I'm standing just outside of Rugby School, and in the foreground is actually the statue of William Webb Ellis. With me I've got a man who is a Rugbyian, born and bred. He is the Mayor, Councillor Richard Giada. Thank you very much for chatting to us, and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you very much indeed. Welcome to rugby, and good morning to your viewers in South Africa.
We've had the most amazing experience here in rugby. You guys have really put on a very good showing to the rest of the world. You guys have also seen an increase in visitors.
Yes, we have. Many international visitors have been coming to rugby, many from the Southern Hemisphere, from New Zealand, Australia, and as well as South Africa.
It seems almost a pity that the place that invented the game shouldn't have a rugby stadium that can actually host a Rugby World Cup match. Have there been any talks to actually get something like that off the ground?
Well, I believe that was an awful long time ago that it was first mooted, but England have been playing at Twickenham for over 100 years now, so that is considered to be the home of English rugby, whereas we are more international, whereas we are but the birthplace of the game. Therefore, it's a kind of different scenario, really.
And it's also something that has attracted visitors from all over the world. It seems as if you guys have really taken a concerted effort to celebrate that heritage during this time, and it's something that I would understand is you'd like to carry on following the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, we've invested quite a lot of money within the borough for the World Cup. It's a golden opportunity for us with England hosting the Rugby World Cup this year, and we thought it was important as the birthplace of the game to actually invest within the borough for our visitors, for our residents as well, and hopefully have a legacy to build on in the future.
Mayor, when I met you earlier on this morning, you said to me that you've watched all of the Springboks matches, and you said, oh, wasn't that a great victory last night? It certainly was. So have you then adopted South Africa as the team that you would like to go very far in this Rugby World Cup?
Well, clearly I'm very disappointed that England, as the host nation, are actually out of this year's Rugby World Cup. Congratulations to South Africa for reaching the quarter-final stages. I was fortunate enough to go and see South Africa play at Villa Park, and it was a wonderful game. It was a wonderful experience, and I've seen all the South Africa games, but all I'm hoping for is a wonderful tournament, the same as everybody else, and I'm sure the best team will go on to win it.
Lovely stuff, thank you very much. It's the Mayor of Rugby who has a soft spot for the Springboks, Councillor Richard Dodd. That's how we come to the end of our broadcast for this morning, and also our broadcasting from the birthplace of the game, rugby. Tomorrow we're in Milton Keynes. All we can say now is goodbye to rugby and thanks for the fun.